Coming up on 5 Minute News. Memorial Weekend sees more shootings nationwide. US to send medium-range rocket systems to Ukraine. And former Trump White House advisor subpoenaed in DOJ probe. It's Wednesday, June 1. I'm Anthony Davis. As the nation mourned the massacre of 19 children and 2 teachers at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, multiple mass shootings happened elsewhere over the Memorial Day weekend, in areas both rural and urban. Single-death incidents still accounted for most gun fatalities. Gunfire erupted at the pre-dawn hours of Sunday at a festival in the town of Taft, Oklahoma, sending hundreds of revelers scattering and customers inside the nearby Boots Cafe diving for cover. 8 people, ages 9 to 56, were shot, and 1 of them died. 6 children, aged 13 to 15, were wounded on Saturday night in a tourist quarter of Chattanooga, Tennessee. 2 groups got into an altercation, and 2 people in one of them pulled guns and started shooting. 10 people were wounded and 3 law enforcement officers injured in a shooting incident at a Memorial Day nighttime street gathering in Charleston, South Carolina. And at a club and liquor store in Benton Harbor in southwestern Michigan, a 19-year-old man was killed and 6 other people wounded after gunfire rang out among a crowd at 2:30 a.m. on Monday. Those and others met a common definition of a mass shooting, in which 4 or more people are shot. Such occurrences have become so regular, news of them is likely to fade fast. There were at least 2 incidents in Chicago between late Friday and Monday that qualified as mass shootings, including one near a closed elementary school on the west side, in which the wounded included a 16-year-old girl. Texas Governor Greg Abbott and other Republican opponents of tougher gun laws quickly pointed to Chicago as an example of how such measures don't work, saying more people are shot every weekend there than there are schools in Texas. But the assertions by Abbott and others are misleading and oversimplifying the situation in the country's 3rd largest city. Many guns used in the killing of Chicagoans were initially bought in other states with less stringent gun laws like Indiana and Mississippi. Chicago officials also note that the city records fewer murders per capita than many other smaller U.S. cities. The Biden administration announced on Tuesday that it will send Ukraine a small number of high-tech medium-range rocket systems, a critical weapon that Ukrainian leaders have been begging for as they struggle to stall Russian progress in the Donbass region. The rocket systems are part of a new $700 million tranche of security assistance for Ukraine from the US that will include helicopters, Javelin anti-tank weapon systems, tactical vehicles, spare parts, and more, according to 2 senior administration officials. The US decision to provide the advanced rocket systems tries to strike a balance between the desire to help Ukraine battle ferocious Russian artillery barrages while not providing arms that could allow Ukraine to hit targets deep inside Russia and trigger an escalation of the war. In a guest essay published on Tuesday evening in the New York Times, President Joe Biden confirmed that he's decided to provide the Ukrainians with more advanced rocket systems and munitions that will enable them to more precisely strike key targets on the battlefield in Ukraine. The Ukrainians have assured U.S. officials that they will not fire rockets into Russian territory, according to the senior administration officials. One official noted that the advanced rocket systems will give Ukrainian forces greater precision in targeting Russian assets inside Ukraine. Former Trump White House advisor Peter Navarro revealed in a court filing on Tuesday afternoon that he has been subpoenaed to appear before a grand jury this week as part of the Justice Department's sprawling probe into the deadly insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Navarro, who was a trade advisor to then-President Donald Trump, said he was served by the FBI at his Washington, D.C. house last week. The subpoena is the first known instance of prosecutors seeking testimony from someone who worked in the Trump White House as they investigate the most dangerous attack on U.S. democracy in 2 centuries. In an 88-page filing, Navarro claims the House Select Committee investigating the attack is unlawful, and therefore a subpoena it issued to him in February is unenforceable under law. The 72-year-old filed the suit on Tuesday against members of the committee, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and the U.S. Attorney for D.C. Matthew M. Graves. Navarro said the goal of his lawsuit is much broader than the subpoenas themselves. Though the scope of the department's investigation remains unclear, the subpoena to Navarro could signal that the department is widening its probe to examine the activities and records of people who worked directly for the Republican president. The subpoena also comes as pressure continues to mount on the Justice Department and Attorney General Merrick Garland to consider prosecuting Trump since the January 6 House Committee laid out an argument for what its members believe could be a viable criminal case against the former president. You can subscribe to 5-Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5-Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5-Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.